I don't think we're really waiting for GTA 6 in the way that most people think we are. I know that sounds like one of the most typical overcomplicated takes people throw out just to be different, but the more I started really paying attention to how Rockstar builds their games, the harder it became to ignore the feeling that this isn't something they've just been working on in isolation for the past few years, but something they've been slowly putting together across everything they've already made. If you go back to Red Redemption 2 and really think about how the world worked instead of just how it looked or how good the story was, you might realize that it didn't feel like a traditional game world anymore. That towns didn't feel like they existed just for you to walk into them. But looking back now, it feels like Rockstar was testing how far they could push a world before it stopped feeling like a collection of scripted events and started feeling like something that could almost exist on its own. And that's the part that gets more interesting the more you think about it. Systems like these aren't just about improving a single game. They feel like a base, something that you can construct with the expectation of future. Red Dead 2 started to feel less like an endpoint and more like a proof of concept for something that wasn't fully ready yet. At the same time, GTA 5 and its online platform has been running in the background all of this time. It's usually seen as a separate thing, but when you really look at it, it's hard to ignore how valuable that environment is for Rockstar. It's not just a game mode. It's a long-term sandbox where millions of players are always interacting with systems that you can change, watch, and improve over years instead of months. Kind of long-term observation gave Rockstar a level of insight into player behavior that you couldn't get from a traditional single-player release. They were able to see what people did when they weren't being told what to do, what kinds of activities they did over and over, and what feels good to them and what doesn't. And more importantly, they started to see the patterns behind all of that behavior. When you combine that kind of long-term behavioral data with the kind of systemic world design that was being explored in Red Dead Redemption 2, you're not just building a map or a story. You're building a world that has to respond to players in a way that feels less predictable and more reactive, and that's a very different kind of challenge. When people talk about GTA 6 and focus on things like the size of the map or how good the graphics will look, it seems like they are missing the point of what Rockstar has really been working on. They have already shown that they can handle scale and that every major studio is always working to improve visuals. But creating a world that feels alive and doesn't fall apart when players do things that aren't expected is a much harder problem to solve. When I really reflect on the GTA 6 trailers, they become a lot more intriguing. Initially, they present the familiar, an expansive world, more intricate environments, and the usual features fans anticipate. However, if I shift my focus from the surface level elements and I really examine the background, subtle details emerge that feel somewhat unconventional. These aren't immediately apparent, but they subtly prompt me to wonder if what I'm witnessing is genuinely scripted in the conventional manner. People are reacting to things around them in ways that don't seem perfectly looped, and there are small interactions that seem too natural to be planned. There is also a general sense that the world isn't just there for the player to move through. It is still functioning whether you are paying attention to it or not. And that's why I keep coming back to the idea that GTA 6 isn't really a big leap forward. It's more like all of these smaller steps finally coming together. If you really sit back and look at the behavioral systems from Red Dead Redemption 2, the long-term player data and system testing from GTA Online, and the way Rockstar has always improved how their worlds react to players over time, it starts to feel less like they're making something new and more like finishing something that's been in the works for a long time. It also shifts your expectations about what playing GTA 6 will be like. If the goal is a more responsive, less scripted world, the game could be less chaotic and easier to exploit than before. The experience might be a touch slower, more deliberate, as if the underlying systems are now doing more of the heavy lifting, the stuff that we usually take for granted. And that doesn't mean that it will be less fun, but it does mean that people will have to get used to it, especially if they expect it to just be like GTA 5 but with more content. Rockstar seems to be moving toward a world where the world itself has a bigger role in shaping what happens, instead of just reacting in simple, predictable ways. The longer you consider this shift, the clearer it becomes why the game's development stretched out. It's not merely about cramming in new elements, it's about ensuring everything functions cohesively, creating a seamless experience. You can't really rush that, especially since players are going to spend hours trying to push those systems to their limits as soon as the game comes out. When I say that GTA 6 already exists, I don't mean that the game is already finished or that we've already played the exact experience that Rockstar is going to release. What I mean is that the core ideas behind it, the systems, the design philosophy, and the direction we've been moving in have all been present in the games they've made over the past few years, just not fully combined into the complete experience yet. Once you shift your perspective and you view it through that lens, GTA 6 transforms from a simple sequel into something more. It begins to feel like the culmination of Rockstar's long-term vision. This isn't merely about crafting a larger or improved iteration of the past. Instead, it's about fundamentally altering the player's interaction with the game world. And maybe that's why it seems like we've previously seen pieces of it. We have, in a way, but they were spread out across other games, and ideas that didn't completely connect at the time, but make more sense now that we've seen them all together. Instead of thinking of GTA 6 as something we don't know anything about, it might be better to think of it as something that has been steadily unveiled over time. When we finally get to see it all at once, it probably won't feel like we're stepping into something completely new. All the systems Rockstar has been building and refining for years might come together in a way that makes the world feel more alive, and maybe even a little less predictable than anything we've played from before. And if that's where they've been going all along, it makes sense that it doesn't just feel like we're waiting for GTA 6. We've already been playing it. That's why I keep coming back to that first idea. It's not because it sounds good as a title or because it's supposed to be a bold claim. The more you mull over it, the more plausible it becomes. Though not in a straightforward, literal sense, it's more an intriguing kind of truth. For all of you who stayed until the end, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'll catch you in the next one.